So I welcome all of you. So we started with the brain functions and meditation, and of course, probably we'll try to learn something on sleep, which is the most cherished, the state, and generally all of us we really like to. But at the same time, it's very and having a proper sleep is becoming like a really health issue now. Now, we know that sleep is such a wonderful state that, as I told you, that all of us, we would like to cherish, or given an opportunity, would like to sleep most of the time, because that is such a wonderful experience to sleep. But it's not only human, the sleep is a very universal phenomena. It is there across all the animal kingdom. But the way these animals sleep will be entirely different the way we sleep. You see, you have these dolphins. Now, dolphins has a very peculiar way of sleep where their one part of the brain will be in a sleep mode, the other part of the brain will be in a wake mode. Why? And you see, we have a few small animals where they have these bouts of sleep. Bouts of sleep, they sleep for say couple of minutes, again they will wake, again they will have a sleep for couple of minutes, again they will wake, again they wake. So these varieties of such sleep behavior is found across the animal kingdom. And studying these behavior across the animals, it has been clearly shown that the sleep behavior has an evolutionary imprint. Why dolphins has say one area of the brain is in a sleep mode, the other area of their sleep, brain will in a wake mode, is because they are aquatic animals. They will be there always in the water. They cannot be static. They should be in the swimming. And at the same time, they have a risk of the predators, say of a larger aquatic animal, which they can come and they can fall into prey. So nature has developed such a mechanism that one area of their brain, right, will go to sleep mode, and subsequently in another area of the brain will always be in the wake mode, so that they can also be vigilant. So, if you can see, say for example, it has been hypothesized, even if our early ancestors like say gorilla or chimpanzee, they also sleep, but intermittently, they will have a wake. So they wake up for say a couple of seconds, again they go to sleep. They wake up for a couple of seconds, again they will go to sleep, because again those animals, they are not in a very secured environment, and so nature has realized, if the whole brain get into a sleep mode, and so there is a chances of other predators, they can come, and these people, they become a hunt for that. So in between, there is a wake, so there is an intermittent wake. If you observe our own sleep, even though we feel we have slept throughout the night, somewhere in between, for 30 seconds or 1 minute, we feel we are awake, and after certain time, we go into sleep. So this we call as intermittent awakenings, and there should be a certain percentage of intermittent awakenings in us, and this is evolutionary, that we have even preserved this also. So even though we sleep in a very secured environment, but still we will have that intermittent awakenings, because evolutionary we have carried this particular behavior. Now, but what? So is there a relationship between say the duration of sleep and the size of the animal or the size of the brain and all those things? They have shown that, right, depending on the activity of the person and depending on the size of the brain, so sleep duration and sleep, the type, it will, it varies. So normally, for any adult human being, I'm talking about adult now, the adult human being, he has to sleep around say 7 to 8 hours a day. That was our earlier presumption. But now, so you mean, is it only to 7 to 8 hours? Is it universal to everybody? It is not universal to everybody. So duration of sleep, okay, is up to the individual. Now we have what we call it as the sufficient sleep. Now, what do you mean by sufficient sleep? When we sleep in the night, when we get up in the morning, we should feel fresh. Then, throughout the day, we should be very active in whatever the work that we do. And sleep should not intrude into our wake. I'm not talking about nap. I'll come to the nap later. I'm talking about the sleep. Sleep should not intrude into our wake active, during our wake state. So this sufficient sleep is what is needed for us. This sufficient sleep can be 10 hours to a person, it can be 4 hours to a person, or it can be 6 hours to a person. But average, it is around say 7 to 8 hours. So that's what I mean. You see, if somebody sleeps 4 hours, say in the night, and throughout the morning is very active, so 4 hours sleep is enough for him. But if somebody sleeps 10 hours, still, he's that person is not very active throughout the day, right? Of course, he needs a certain evaluation, right? And a few people, they need say 8 hours for a good amount of sleep, and they have to be active for throughout the day. So the definition of normal sleep as such, universally, it is not there. So it is just roughly around 7 to 8 hours. Now the concept is called sufficient sleep, and we have to recognize what is a sufficient sleep for us. Is it 4 hours, 5 hours, or 6 hours? So this concept, it's very, very important. And also, sleep is not a. See, earlier it was taught that sleep is a very passive phenomenon. What do you mean by passive phenomena? See, whenever when brain or the mind gets very tired, and when no sensory inputs goes to the brain, and brain will go to a sleep mode, and it's very passive state, and brain will be very inhibited, and it doesn't work in the sleep at all. This was a very long earlier presumed that it is sleep is a very passive state, but no, brain is more active during sleep. But the activity of the brain during sleep is different in a different way than when it is in the wake. So now sleep is a very active phenomenon. It is not a passive at all. And there are many factors that will influence the sleep. It can be from the brain itself, the neurons, or it can be certain changes in the hormones, or it can be a disease condition, it can be a normal aging process. But more important is the psychological factors, right? All these things, it play a very important role in the sleep. And also there are other two important factors which I would like to take some time to explain. We call it as homeostasis and circadian factors. Now, what is this homeostasis factor? Homeostasis factor is the pressure for the sleep that is built up during our day activity. When we get up in the morning, and as we start working throughout the day, right, the waste products that gets accumulated in the brain, right, it starts building up the pressure for the sleep, right? So even all of us would have experienced, right? If you have a night shift or a night duty, or you would have traveled throughout the night. So next day you feel very sleepy. Why do you feel very sleepy? Is because you didn't have a sleep in the previous night. Not only that, your sleep pressure is built up. See, this is called as homeostasis process. This is number one. The second is circadian. Circadian is very important as far as for our today's lifestyle is concerned. What is circadian process? See, all our bodily mechanism, it is tuned for the solar cycle, sunrise to sunset. The whole principle of the lifestyle as far as yoga is concerned is related to sunrise and sunset. The same clock, right, of that 24 hours that is there with the earth rotation, right, that clock is also embedded in us. This is called a circadian clock. Every organ of our body has its own clock. The way my, say, stomach or intestine functions, it has a pattern, a cyclical pattern. My liver functions, it has a cyclical pattern. Now my brain works, it has its own cyclical pattern. So everything there is a clock. So our say day-to-day activity, so it has to be in tune with the sunrise and the sunset. So this is called a circadian relation, the circadian variation. So probably say this also would have been our experience. If somebody is working in the night shifts, regular night shift, their circadian variation changes. Or the much more is, so probably see all of us would have traveled, for the international travel. If you cross several time zones, right, your sleep pattern will change. Or you come back to your place in India, say from Europe or from USA, right? So your sleep pattern, your sleep timings will change over here. Why does this change? Because we have traveled across the time zones. So there, the sunrise and the sunset timings are different, right? And there will be some clash between the sunrise and sunset geographically in that new area. But our internal clock is adjusted to one particular clock, and it takes some time for these two to get aligned with. So I'm giving you these are very experiential examples. So this circadian regulation is also very, very important. So all these things, it contributes for a very good sleep. Now, there is a very classical definition of sleep, What do you mean by a sleep as such? A behavioral definition or a psychological definition. It is not a neuroscience definition, it is a psychological definition. The psychological definition of sleep is should be reversible. So which tells that it is a reversible state from what? It's a reversible state from the disengagement from the environment. Not only disengagement from the environment, and we should be unresponsive to the environment also. But important question is here, it should be reversible. You please imagine yourself, if it is irreversible, what will happen? Either person is in a deep coma or he is already gone. But we have these four important things. Number one, we should have a reduced motor activity. Means our muscle movement should not be there during sleep. We should have a reduced response to any stimuli. Any external stimuli that comes, there should not be any overt response to that. As far as the human being is concerned, it's always when we lie down, we call it as a sleep. Suppose say somebody they rest their head on the table, so that we see, especially with the students in the classroom or in the library or in the office taking for some time, that is not considered as a sleep according to this particular definition. Those are naps. So naps are different, and sleep is different. So we should be in a supine position, that is in the sleeping position, and non-responsive to the external environment, and it has to be reversible, is the behavioral definition of the sleep. So if you look at this, we have two types of sleep. One is called as R.E.M sleep. R.E.M sleep, as you can see over here, it is called as rapid eye movement sleep. The rest of the things, all these white things, you can see these are all NREM sleep. NREM sleep. That is non-rapid eye movement sleep. Now, what do you mean by rapid eye movement sleep? Say, for example, today, okay, somebody, say in your house, he or she goes to sleep, say by 10 o'clock. Just I'm taking an example, and you go and see his or her eyes, maybe say after 1.5 hours, by 11:30. You can see their eye will be fastly oscillating like a pendulum like this. It will be very fast. This is called as a rapid eye movement sleep. And now this rapid eye movement sleep is a phase where we dream a lot. In non-rapid eye movement sleep, there will be no this rapid eye movement horizontally like this. So we have two types of sleep. One is non-rapid eye movement sleep and rapid eye movement sleep. So my rapid eye movement sleep, it occurs for the first time only around 1.5 hours after I go to sleep. So if you can see over here, initially when we go to bed, we feel very drowsy. So we change our posture for the left side and all those things. Maybe by say 10 minutes, we go to lighter stages of sleep. What here is what you can see like N1 and N2. This is a lighter stages of sleep. So we got a very light is N1, a little much more deeper, but still it is light is N2. Then slowly we go to a deep sleep state, that is N3 stage. And we spend some time in N3. Again we come back to a lighter stage. Then after 1.5 hours, our first cycle of REM, that is rapid eye movement, it will start. And we start dreaming over here. So does it mean that dream doesn't happen in this phase? No. Dream can happen in this phase also. But the dream that happens in these REM phases is qualitatively different, and it is more remembered than the dream that happens in this NREM, in this non-rapid eye movement sleep. So if you divide the whole night into two halves, say the first half and the second half of the night, say before midnight and the after midnight. As the night progresses, we can see our rapid eye movement sleep will be more. So it is our normal experience. We dream more early in the morning. So we have the duration of REM sleep will be more right in the second half of the night. But in the first half of the night over here, where you have the deep sleep state, will be more in the first half of the night. So as I told you earlier about homeostasis process, that is the sleep pressure that is built up. And that sleep pressure that is built up in our brain, if it wants to reduce that sleep pressure, that will happen in this deep sleep state. More the deep sleep state, so it means that the sleep pressure that is built up in my brain or in my mind is slowly, it is coming down. Now what does it mean? It means that the waste products that is accumulated in my brain, especially in the frontal cortex, okay, which I told you that yesterday, during deep sleep state, so there will be a lot of cleaning process that happens in the brain. So that is, we call it as pruning. So deep sleep state prunes your neurons. It prunes your synapses. It prunes the connectivity, right? It prepares the whole brain network, for your next day activity. So this deep sleep state is very important. Now, when you get up in the morning, when we feel very fresh and very happy, and the subjective experience of having a very nice, good, qualitative sleep, it means that we have spent enough amount of time in the deep sleep state. Suppose if the deep sleep state is less, or it is not there, or it has been reduced for various reasons, even if you sleep say 12 hours a day, you get up in the morning, you don't feel fresh. So our feeling, a subjective experience of feeling very fresh, it all depends on adequate amount of the deep sleep in which we spend in the night. This is very important. Right. Then in the second half of the night, we see we have a lot of the REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep, and we have more and more dreams. So what is the difference between the dream that happens in the REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep, and in the non-rapid eye movement sleep? The content of the dream in the REM sleep will be more emotive in nature. It is loaded with emotions. But there could be some type of dreams which are non-emotive in nature. It is not because of the content of the dream it is not loaded with the emotions, right? And that will more happen in this NREM sleep, that is non-rapid eye movement sleep, either in stage 1 or stage 2. So this would have been our experience. You are very drowsy, right? And you feel very hazy, but still you have some weird imagination or some visualization that is coming, but you are not very deep enough. These both stages of sleep is very, very important for the healthy brain. As I told you, in this deep sleep state, it is like a cleaning process for the whole brain. But this REM state, that is our dream state, is more about the connectivity. So deep sleep state, it cleans the house, it cleans the whole brain. Now, after cleaning the whole house, you want to rearrange the things, right, in the house. And that rearrangement of the synapses, right, it happens in your dream state. And how this connectivity strengthens, right, it depends on the content of the dream. Now, the studies have very clearly shown the part of the brain that was very active, during wake, the same part of the brain will be very active even during sleep also. As I told you yesterday, suppose I always think about, say, Harishadvargas, maybe during my consciously, I'm telling about consciously, during my wake state. When I go back to sleep, the same area that is associated with this, right, will be highly active even during sleep also. Or in the other case, if I encourage consciously more a holy thought, holistic thought, intellectual thoughts, okay, during my say waking hours, when I go back to sleep, right, the same areas of the brain will be very active. Now, why is this important? That is to say that during waking hours, which area of the brain is very active, right? And that has to be, the kachra that is accumulated because of this lot of activity, right? We call it as adenosine, so many things, that is accumulated, where that particular area that get very fatigued, and that has to be cleaned up. That's why that particular area also will be very active, right? It will be very active, that it get cleaned up. And that the content of the brain, and if that particular area of the brain during sleep which is very active, the things, that memory that is consciously or unconsciously that is actually in that particular area of the brain, it expresses itself as a dream imagery, right, for us. And based on this dream imagery, the connections of the neurons also, it takes place. So that's why both the NREM sleep and REM sleep plays a very, very important role. Not only that, even if you are in deep sleep state, it is not an unconscious state. Please remember that. It is a different type of consciousness. It is not an unconscious state. Today, during deep sleep state, there is a hint where people can learn. Say for example, a simple de-addiction. If a person is wishing, so say for example he is a nicotine addict and he has a desire to come out of that nicotine addiction. So the easiest way is, so when he goes to deep sleep state, so what is to be done is, you give a nicotine smell and also another very pungent, repulsive smell. In a very, see, the strength of the smell should not be very strong enough for a person to wake. It should be very light. If you see, this is called an associative memory, and that should happen in the deep sleep or in the deep sleep state, and the person is not aware of this. See, these are the experiments that is done, and it is very successful also. And the person is not aware, that they're showing this. They're giving some smell during his sleep, and when he gets up in the morning, will exhibit a repulsive behavior for nicotine. His desire to consume nicotine, it tremendously reduces. He develops that aversion. Even with a single night, where during wake it has been very unsuccessful, but with a single night in deep sleep state, it's possible. That means what? It means that even with the deep sleep state, brain is learning an association. A learning is happening during deep sleep. Who learns this? Who is learning all these things? So it is a philosophical question. We don't venture into this at this point of time, or not in this lecture at all, right? So why I told you about this is, first we have to understand that this deep sleep state is not an unconscious state. It is a conscious state of a different stature, that's all. And unconsciously we can learn here. Not only this, not only about learning. In deep sleep state, that plays a very, very important role for our memory or for our memory consolidation. Say we learn something during our waking hours. We read, we write, we talk to each other, we learn some skills, whatever it is. See, all this information, it goes and it is placed in the different areas of the brain. Now, when during deep sleep state, now what happens? All these information that is present in their short-term memory bank, it is transferred to the long-term memory bank during deep sleep state or in the sleep state. So the most important is memory consolidation, transferring of the information from your short-term to the long-term memory. It happens during sleep. So one of the function of the sleep is also about consolidating memory. That's why, so we can see, especially the students who are really deep into study, or they have learned something, or it is also our thing, our experience. You are learning something really new. It can be anything, right? Say after 2 or 3 hours, you feel little bit drowsy and sleepy. So I advise especially the students, when you're really intense into reading something, after 1.5 hours or 2 hours, you feel very drowsy, you just take a nap. So somebody is taking a nap in the library or in the classroom or in the school or colleges, I advise the teachers, please don't get annoyed or don't get disturbed them. Because whatever they have learnt in your class, it is getting consolidated in their memory during that particular, the stage of 5 or 10 minutes or 15 minutes when they go for a nap, provided they don't have a sleep disorder or they had a very good refreshing sleep in the previous night. So this is in brief which I told you about how an adult brain, it varies from, it has a different components. And you see we have this R.E.M sleep and R.E.M sleep. So this one you can see that which I am encircling now. This is called a sleep cycle. So you can see this is the cyclical pattern over here. So you have R.E.M sleep, R.E.M sleep, R.E.M sleep, R.E.M sleep, R.E.M sleep and R.E.M sleep. Such sleep cycle should be there throughout the night. 4 to 5 such sleep cycles, is considered to be very essential for the sleep. The first sleep cycle will be around 90 to 120 minutes after sleep onset, after we go to sleep. Now the other thing is, which is also of very practical importance for us, is, see, if you observe any newborn baby, it sleeps a lot, and that particular sleep is very polycyclic, means it has a multiple cycles. So you can see here, it will be waking for a short duration of time and it sleeps for a long time. Again, intermittently it will wake and it will sleep. Why it wakes? For various reasons. It can be hungry, or the diaper and so on, or naturally it can wake up. But you can say you have multiple bouts of this sleep will be there in the newborn. And subsequently what happens as we age, this polycyclic, that sleep will change into a monocyclic one, which I explained just previously now in the adult. But most important over here is this: from newborn till the age of 4 to 5 years, when you have this polycyclic phases of sleep, these children, they spend more in rapid eye movement sleep, not in R.E.M sleep. But as the brain matures, the deep sleep is a process of brain maturation. But your rapid eye movement sleep is inborn. So that means to say that what? It means to say that from the newborn till the age of say 6-7 years, when they spend more in R.E.M sleep, it is playing a very important role, in formation and developing the neuronal contacts. So if any of your kids or grandkids, they are sleeping a lot, please allow them to sleep. Don't disturb them. Environment should be conducive for them to sleep. Number one. Number two, there is also a talk in the village. They say बच्चे नींद में बड़े हो जाते हैं. Here also we say baby grows in sleep. But even though it is it's a common man language, but it's true. Why it is true? It is during this sleep phase where our growth hormones are secreted a lot. So whenever the child, not only child, even with us also, when we go to sleep, in adults during R.E.M sleep, there is a surge of growth hormone. Growth hormone in adults has its own other important functions apart from growth. But till the growth happens, whenever child goes to sleep, there is a surge of growth hormone. There is a surge of growth hormone. And growth hormone has its own beneficial effect always. So please allow all the developing kids to sleep properly. If your kid is going to school, if the teacher complains that he doesn't listen to me, in last 10-15 minutes your son or daughter will go to sleep, okay, please tell to the teacher why this is going to happen, and please encourage it and educate the teacher not to get annoyed with this. Only provided, right, your kid has a sufficient good night's sleep. If there is no good night's sleep, still if it is sleeping in the school or in the college, right, then the situation is entirely, it's different. So this is about the ontogeny of the sleep. Not only that. So as yesterday I was telling you, even during pregnancy, the developing embryo in utero is also known to sleep, and it will be in REM sleep, and it will be dreaming. There are a lot of the scanning and the video pictures that in pregnant women, you go near the uterus, you wave the hand, you talk, the fetus from inside it responds. I'm not telling a cock and bull story. These are the images that has been captured, and it responds. The way you talk, right? The way we develop our mental attributes whenever we during our pregnancy plays a very, very important role. And these emotional things that the mother carry, which I told you yesterday, right? And certain neurotransmitters or chemical variations which can go through the placenta into the newborn, right? So that will also determine the quality of the REM sleep over here. This is what this particular, the slide shows. You have this conception over here. At the 0 means at the time of birth. So before this, you can see a large blue over here where it spends more and more time. It's in the REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep. And rapid eye movement sleep is also associated with the development of the capacity of emotional maturity. And also after birth, we have to spend more time in the REM sleep. Now, the psychological and the neuropsychological evaluation have clearly shown the disturbed pregnancy, not a happy pregnancy, or the pregnancy of say because of drug addict or alcohol addict or for any other various other reasons, or maybe after birth the sleep is especially the REM sleep is very fragmented, it is not disturbed, which doesn't allow the proper connections in the brain to happen. These kids, when they get into adult and adolescent age, they are more prone for neuropsychiatric disorders. If we see a depression or an anxiety in a school kid, or in an adolescent, or it can be an ADHD, that attention deficit hyperactivity disorders, right? All these kids, they have they would have not have a proper wiring in their brain, because their REM sleep was fragmented, the REM sleep was not continuous, or their sleep would have been disturbed, along with other factors that can contribute. Not only this REM sleep or the dream state that we see in the early age, that will prepare the whole mind and the brain to gain the secondary consciousness. Now, what do you mean by secondary consciousness? Until a capacity is developed, where the language is developed, a comprehension is developed, so that child develops a capacity for the verbatim, where he can express its subjective experience, right? Now this we call it a secondary consciousness. Primary consciousness is just a pure experience. Okay, they're just experiencing it. They dream, they're just experiencing it. They cannot really tell. But the capacity, the cognitive ability for them to develop language, develop the vocabulary to express their experiences. We call it a secondary, the consciousness, right? And development of these capacity, your cognitive capacity, it all depends on the primary consciousness. In terms of neuroscience, when we say it all depends on a very critical age of development, okay, from the day of conception to the birth to the first couple of years till the language is developed in the kid. So that's how the REM sleep plays a very, very, very important role. And also, because this REM sleep is associated with the dream and it is associated with the different levels of consciousness, nature has given that this REM sleep till the age of 70 years, it doesn't show a age associated decline. But the normal, say your R.E.M sleep, with the age, it start reducing. But REM sleep start reducing only, after 70 years, not before that. Now this REM sleep or the rapid eye movement sleep is very unique. The whole activity of the brain during REM sleep is like wake. Why it is like wake? I told you just a couple of minutes earlier. The area of the brain that was active during wake will get reactivated also during sleep. So during REM sleep, if you take a EEG recording or the brain recording, it will look like a wake. You cannot distinguish. If you just give me a brain recording of a wake person and a person who is in the REM sleep, I cannot really differentiate which is wake and which is the REM sleep. It's not possible. That's why in the scientific literature, REM sleep is called as paradoxical sleep. It is very paradoxic. Why it is paradoxical? All the characteristic that was there in the wake, right? It is expressed, during your dream state, or that is during in your REM sleep. Except your muscles are not active. Your whole of your skeletal muscles is completely hypotonic or it is paralyzed, except for your diaphragm, so that the breathing is happening, and except for the small muscle that is present in your inner ear, so that the pressure inside the skull and outside the atmosphere, it is maintained. Except for these two muscles, skeletal muscles, of course, heart will be beating. That's a different issue. But these two skeletal muscles, except for these two, all our skeletal muscles, it gets paralyzed. When we cannot lift our hand also during our dream state. Now sometimes that's why we would have experienced, we would have a dream and we would like to wake up, but we cannot open our eyes. But there is an intention for me to wake, but I cannot really wake up for a couple of minutes. Then subsequently I can wake up, because in this dream state, my muscles are completely paralyzed. Why the nature has given this wonderful thing? So nature says, see, REM sleep is a wonderful state where you are really dreaming, and it says, you just enjoy your dream, but don't enact the dream. So that's why we just lie down and we enjoy the dream. But there are some disease conditions where the activity of this muscle is not reduced, and it is maintained during REM sleep, where you can see the people, they enact their dreams. Okay, so they would have slept in the bedroom, and tomorrow morning you see they are sleeping in the balcony, right? Or they would have they got some dream. They will get up, they will go, and they fall from the balcony, right? And they injure themselves or they are gone. Or sometimes it can be, okay, in the dream, so something is coming, okay, they are fighting, okay, and the person will start kicking, okay, the partner or somebody in the house, or somebody is chasing in the dream and he will go, he picks up the knife in the kitchen and so he may stab somebody. So these are called as REM behavior disorders. So they start enacting their dreams. So why this happens is because their muscles also becomes very active, and it's a very typical, it's a disease condition. But the other important aspects of the dream is, during our dream, it is very bizarre. One episode of the dream to the next episode of the dream, normally it doesn't have any connect. And it is not like our wake experience in the real time. Why it happens? Because during our dream state, during our REM sleep state, the blood supply to my frontal cortex is completely reduced. So yesterday we saw that frontal cortex is responsible for our logical, rational, and we are in tune with the real time, with the external environment. So we can have those sequential things, we can derive a meaning of something like that. So when the blood supply to all my the frontal cortex is reduced, still there is a imagery that is happening, right? Imagery will be there, and it will be very bizarre. So it doesn't have it will be very bizarre, and we cannot have any logical, meaning of those dream imagery. It's not possible. And also, we cannot control the dream. I'm talking about normal, but there are very, very specific Buddhist in tradition of way of meditation where they can control the dream. Not only for controlling the dream. So you have an episode of the dream, okay, they get up, they go to a washroom, they come back, they sleep, and they have a capacity to continue the dream. Now I will try to give you some overview about the sleep deprivation. So now all of us would have understood why sleep is very important for the cleaning purpose of our brain, connections of our brain. Not only that, during deep sleep, our immune system is at the peak. So that's why we can see, if somebody is in, continuously with, say, shift work, not having a proper sleep, frequent traveling, disturbed sleep, they develop the gastritis, they develop myalgia, they develop mouth ulcers because their immunity comes down. So our immunity is associated with our sleep. The growth, it is associated with our sleep. Our mood is associated with our sleep, right? The stability of our mind is associated with our sleep. So all these things, are the normal physiological and psychological functions of the sleep. And if we are sleep deprived, right? So there will be a lot of alterations in the mood. So attention span reduces. So we become very irritable. So our skills, it comes down. There will be a lot of fluctuations in the mood, right? And in turn, it has its own subsequent effect, including development of, say, metabolic syndromes like diabetes, hypertension, arthritis, so many the other things. These are the effects of the sleep deprivation. And of course, the functions of the sleep I've already elaborated. I have told you about recovery. It conserves the energy. And dreaming, what's the importance of dreaming, brain growth, repair, memory consolidation. So we have, if we have a very suppressed emotions, and there would have not been any opportunity or a chances to express our emotions, to share our emotions for various reasons, right? It can be social circumstance, or it can be my own personality is like that, right? And it is through these dream, okay, these emotions are dispersed or it is discharged. So that we call it as emotional, discharge of emotions is one of the aspects. It's not the only aspect. It's one of the aspect of the dream. Not only that, so subconsciously, if we have something else is happening in the dream, during wake, which is really bothering. It can be anything. So it can be a big, some question, or it can be a big problem. Money. See, I'm trying to some big, a mathematical problem. I'm not getting any solution, right? When I really trying it, but when I go to sleep, so few people, suddenly. Yesterday, somebody was mentioning, they get in a flash, tuck, so they'll get some solution. So when they get up in the morning, they find, oh, this could be the solution, and they start working. They start working on that, and they will get the answer for that. Why all these things will happen is, see, during sleep, the brain is deprived of all your sensory bombardment. It is not there, and different areas of the brain, it is talking for itself. That's why sometimes I say, sleep is like a wonderful time where a housewife spends when the husband and children, husband is gone to work, children have gone to schools or their colleges, and the homemaker is in the house and she is for herself, and she really enjoys that. It is so busy in handling 101 things during our wake, and when it goes to sleep, it is for itself. And there are so many impressions that is there in the brain. So one brain area will talk to another brain area and say, hi, how are you, and all those things. And with this interaction, I'm explaining in a very lay terminology, but even scientifically it happens in form of a brain waves. And mind you, sleep is an essential behavior. That is very important. We have to understand what do you mean by essential behavior. Nature has given very few things which are very essential. You deprive of that, the person is going to die. That is essential behavior. You deprive of a person of the sleep for a long period of time, person is going to die for various reasons. You deprive of a person with the food for a long period of time, person is going to die. So your hunger and the sleep and the thirst, that is water, they are very essential behavior. So that's why I will tell. So you say even our sexual urge is not an essential behavior. It's not. So even if you cannot have a physical intimacy, nobody is going to die, right? So sleep is a very essential behavior. That's why it is very, very important. Then continuing with it, I told you about the circadian rhythm. That is about our sunrise and sunset. So if you look at this, right, see, this is a very technical picture, but still it makes a lot of sense. So we have to understand this. When actually we feel very sleepy, one important thing that we feel very sleepy is that when as a temperature that is measured on the surface of the body or the skin, or maybe if you go to a clinic, they measure from the tongue or something like that. But we have something called a core body temperature inside the body. So a temperature is maintained, and that temperature is 1 or 2 degrees more than my surface temperature of my skin temperature. When that temperature starts dipping, right, we feel very sleepy. It's quite natural for most of us. During afternoon, we feel little bit drowsy, because in the circadian variation, there is a clock for the temperature clock, right? At that point of time, my core body temperature slowly, it reduces, and we feel little bit drowsy. And when we feel little bit drowsy in the afternoon, it's always better to take a nap. So even today in the corporate sector, we have something called as nap time. They go, okay, you have facility, go and take a half an hour nap and come. But we should not sleep in the afternoon. Remember, sleep is different and nap is different. What is the difference? In sleep, as I told you, we go to deep sleep state. But in nap, will not allow you go to deep sleep. It will be always in the lighter sleep state. But afternoon naps are very good, so that your post-afternoon work, you'll be more active and fresh, and your efficiency will also increase. Subsequently, and also your brain will get certain rest. So this is what the core body temperature it comes down. The other important things. See, this red bar which you see, the outer part of this margin is in the early morning hours. See, in the early morning hours, two important things, it happens. So we can see in the early morning hours, something called as melatonin is raising in the body. Okay, and also you have something called cortisol is raising in the body. What do you mean by early morning hours? Maybe say around 4:30 or 5 o'clock in the early in the morning. Now this is a circadian rhythm. Now what is this melatonin? You take anything good, that melatonin say comes and it say, hi, I am here. It is anti-aging, it is anti-stress, right? It increases the concentration, it increases the attention. It is a good antioxidant. So many things. So everything, it tells about the melatonin. And when does this melatonin is secreted? Melatonin, it's secreted with the early in the morning, circadian variation. Not only that, melatonin early in the morning is at peak. I'm telling you it at peak. Otherwise, whenever light is, or we prevent the light going inside our eyes, right? Melatonin starts, sprouting. So that's why you see, even if it is the mid of the, say, summer afternoon, if you are in a very cozy room with comfortable temperature, lights off, we feel very drowsy. Naturally, we get into sleep mode. Why? Because you are shutting the light. When you shut the light, melatonin starts increasing, and it has a very hypnotic effect, and we go to a sleep mode. And melatonin has its own the other beneficial effect. And also you see early in the morning, there is an increase in the cortisol. What is this cortisol? No doubt, after a certain level of cortisol, it is called as a stress hormone, but still cortisol is very important to increase our attention. That's why it's our experience you can see, especially during, say, you are facing any challenge, and it can be an interview or an exam or anything, especially with the kids. Whatever, they would have struggled a lot to understand something throughout 1 year. But as the exam approaches, they will try, so they'll be successfully understanding so many things. Why? Is because of that stress, cortisol is little bit more in their blood, and it increases the efficiency, of their neurons, and it will try to grab and try to understand. Why I'm telling you this is very important? See, this is very important for our sadhana also. Early in the morning, when melatonin is more, when it is increasing its efficiency, and it is it is a feel-good hormone. At the same time, when my cortisol is more, that it is preparing our neurons, to be a little bit more active. Right? We call it as a Brahma Muhurta or Brahmi Muhurta, whatever it is, right? And you get up early in the morning and you engage yourself, right? It can be reading, it can be writing, or it can be sadhana, or whatever it is. That really helps, right? It's in the early in the morning. Now what happens nowadays, right? See, our society has become 24/7. And we have all sorts of bad habits. Even in the mid of the, say, if it is a mid of the night at 1 o'clock, a pitch dark outside, but still we are working in a bright lit room inside. It can be in the office or it can be in the house. Not only in that, especially the youngsters, they are in their bed. Even they have taken their bed sheet on their head. So parents think, okay, are hamara bacha so raha hai, but inside, they are on their WhatsApp. No, even though the whole room is dark, but your mobile light is enough for your brain to get into active mode. So when this light gets into the brain thinks, oh, okay, now light is coming. It means that what? It means that, okay, it is daytime. But actually it is night outside. So there is always a conflict. So brain thinks, array, my clock says now it's a time of night, but light is coming. and light is always more stronger than the and the brain will prepare itself for the other day-to-day activities. So instead of cortisol, okay, becoming high early in the morning, so maybe in the first half of the night or the mid of the night, right, it starts increasing. So thus developing these sleep problems. So, or you are partying throughout the night and you are a frequent party goer, that develops the sleep problems. Or people will consider alcohol is good for sleep. Alcohol is never good for sleep. If you consume alcohol, you may get a sedation but not the sleep. Half-life of the alcohol is very short. You take a pinch of alcohol, maybe you may feel very sleepy for 2 or 3 hours. Once the alcohol is metabolized in your body and you go use the washroom for 2 or 3 times, after that no sleep at all, because your alcohol that is there consumed is completely washed out of the body, and your brain is it comes to a wake mode. So alcohol is not good for the sleep at all. Okay, so all these lifestyles plays a very, very important role for our circadian variations or the circadian things also. Now I would like to give you something on a common sleep problem. We call it as insomnia or sleeplessness, or when we are not getting an adequate sleep and all. Now what do you mean by insomnia? Insomnia means if a person finds difficulty to go to sleep, and if the person finds difficulty to maintain the sleep. So there are two important things. What do you mean by person find it difficult to go to sleep? It means that, see, normally if I go to bed, within say 15-20 minutes, I will go to a sleep mode. Then I'll get up only early in the morning, or in the morning, or maybe one time in between the night to use the washroom. But if a person finds it difficult to go to sleep, he goes to bed in a normal time, but even after 1 hour, 1.5 hours, 2 hours also, he is not getting into sleep mode. That is the meaning where he has difficulty in initiating the sleep. That is one of the characteristic of insomnia. The other thing is sleep maintenance, means person comfortably goes to sleep, but somewhere in the mid of the night he gets up, subsequently he won't get sleep at all. So he has a difficulty to maintain the sleep. So these two alls is a very characteristic of sleeplessness or an insomnia. But one more important category is these two should be there in that person at least for 2 to 3 months, provided still he has an opportunity to go to sleep. Means still if a person has an adequate opportunity for him to go to sleep, still he is not getting the sleep, then only he is suffering from a sleep problem. So it's not that, okay, I'm working in my casualty for say 15 days and I'm sleep deprived. It doesn't mean that I'm suffering from insomnia because I don't have an opportunity to go to sleep. You have all the opportunity to go to sleep. You have a very cozy bedroom. Everything is fine. Everything is comfortable. But still, right, you have a difficulty in maintaining the sleep. You have a difficulty to initiate the sleep. And if this happens, and if this is consistent for you for 3 months, and it is becoming very frequent, right, then we call it as insomnia. And there are a lot of factors which can influence, insomnia. It can be a normal aging process because variations in many other factors it can happen, or it can be because of depression or anxiety or worry that is happening in their life. So that can also cause this insomnia. So these are all predisposing factors. But apart from this, there is something else also which is very important, which can precipitate. Precipitate means there can be some untoward incident that would have happened in their life. that can also bring about a sleep disturbance. That is a precipitating factor. But most important is, right, something which is perpetuate, so it will increase. Means just a serious, our thought, अरे मुझे नींद नहीं आ रहा है, मुझे नींद नहीं आता. This itself a conscious thought is enough to have a disturbed sleep. Or somebody, will have an habit of repeatedly getting up in the night and to see the mobile. कोई message आ रहा है क्या time हो गया, इसका message आया क्या, what happened? So that will also, it disturb this. These are, perpetuating factors. Or sometimes it can be of irregular, sleep-wake scheduled. Okay. So today I sleep at 10 o'clock and tomorrow I have a party, I'll come back at 2 o'clock and sleep at 2 o'clock, and day after tomorrow I have some other work. Now I'll sleep at say again at 11 o'clock, or today, अरे आज तो Saturday है, कल Sunday है, मुझे आज पूरा night party करना है, मुझे पूरा night क्या movie देखना है, then my sleep will vary. So when my sleep wake schedule is altered, right, it has a tremendous effect, on our health also. So that's why whenever this sleeplessness comes, if it is there for a long period of time, which is the most important factor? Most important factor is our perpetuating factor. What is this perpetuating factor? Which I told you now. A conscious thing कि मेरा नींद का कुछ problem है. Consciously, I'm always pondering about that, right? Then my irregular sleep-wake scheduled, my irregular faulty habits, all these things are perpetuating factor which can lead to a chronic sleep loss. And this chronic sleep loss, by this time I hope you would have understood, it has its own health consequence. Tiredness, mood change, okay, all those things, it can happen. Now, how do you manage this? So we have what is called a sleep hygiene. Like you have a hygiene for food and a hygiene for physical things. So similarly, we have something called as hygiene for sleep. So all my subsequent slides, it tells about the sleep hygiene. So I'll tell the orally of the same thing rather than going to the subsequent slides. The first important thing about the sleep hygiene is, please see that you sleep at the same time and wake up at the same time, because your brain has to learn this particular habit. You sleep at 11 o'clock and get up at 5 o'clock, try to maintain this particular time always. Number one. For any reasons, if you could not able to sleep at the same time, but try to get up at the same time. Right? Today I cannot sleep at 11 o'clock, but I slept at 2 o'clock in the mid of the night. But even you slept at 2 o'clock in the mid of the night, but get up at 5 o'clock. So this waking up time should always be fixed, irrespective of your sleep time. Because this is how the one factor which I told you about, the homeostatic factor, that the sleep pressure factor is what we have to, the brain will maintain that. So subsequently what happens, naturally when the sleep pressure builds up, okay, you will catch a sleep in the daytime, so that's okay, and your homeostatic factor is maintained, but you are maintaining your circadian things. Because not only sleep, all my other functions of my body is associated, as I told you, by sunrise and sunset. So all my physiological functions which are associated with sunrise has to happen. So that's why my waking time always has to be fixed, irrespective of your sleep time. But it's always better to have a fixed schedule, and we have to decide how much time do we need for our enough sleep. So this is number one. Number two, before going to bed, say half an hour or 40 minutes before going to bed, please stop Switch off your phone, switch off laptop, no chatting, no WhatsApp, no movie watching, no social media. Don't go to sleep in a very agitated state of mind. We have to prepare ourselves to go to sleep. So how do you prepare to go to sleep? So 40 minutes before your bedtime, so no activities, no discussion of the problems of the family problems before going to sleep. No झगड़ा करना नहीं है, no क्या जोर जोर से बात करना नहीं है, कुछ भी नहीं, right? You go and please wash your legs and your hands with warm water, not with the cold water, with the warm water. Have a glass of milk and a banana possible, right? Then calm down your mind, do some deep breathing practices so that your mind calms down. Or if you have learned a shavasana, you can do a shavasana, and then gradually you have to shift to the sleep. Sleep is not one thing or suddenly you jump into bed and you get to sleep. No, it's a very gradual. You have to prepare your body and mind gradually. It should go to sleep. So you have to prepare. The other thing is no caffeinated drinks, no coffee, no tea, right, after 6 in the evening. Because this coffee and tea, which has a tannin and caffeine, it excites the brain. That's why you see we have worked for a long period of time and we feel little bit tired. We feel we'll have a mug of coffee, and once we have a coffee, we feel little bit energetic, and again we get back to our work. Because caffeine and caffeine, right, it excites the brain and it prevents the sleep. At the same time, no carbonated drinks. Otherwise also carbonated drinks are very dangerous. आपका ये क्या वो 7-Up, Pepsi, Coke वगैरह कुछ भी नहीं after 6 o'clock. Then no heavy physical exercise in the evening. If at all, if somebody has a habit of going to a gym or going to a very long jog or playing a heavy game, shuttles or anything late in the evening, it is not advisable for a proper sleep. Because heavy exercise after late in the evening, right, it excites the brain and it prevents the brain, right, it goes to go to sleep. Even I will advise, even if you want to do yoga, right, in the evening, right, you can do a soothing say pranayama or a om chanting or anything in the evening, but definitely not Surya Namaskara like or a fast Surya Namaskara and all those things, definitely not in the evening, because it prevents the sleep. And the other, the most the important thing, that the atmosphere, right, in the place where you go to sleep, your bedroom, should be very conducive. It should be dark, right? Light should not come. And don't associate, right, your bedroom for any other activity except for the sleep and the physical intimacy with your partner. Because I've seen few people, they associated their bedroom for, say, other activities. It can be like reading or so many things. Because the sleep is what we associated with certain things. So that's why, see, when few people come to my sleep lab, they think, sir, I request them to come for a sleep recording. They say, sir, oh, mera chaddar mujhe chahiye, bas. I told, okay, fine, you get your bed sheet, because they have associated their sleep with a particular pillow or a particular chaddar, and they have to get that. Then only they will sleep. And this you can see in the small kids. You have a specific bed sheet, and they want that bed sheet. Then only they will go to sleep. See, these are all the associations. Not only that, the place is also there. You go to a new place, it will be very difficult for you to sleep, because you have not associated that sleep with your sleep behavior. So these are all the associations, that we will develop to have our adequate or the good sleep. So your sleep time is very important, and the 40 minutes before going to sleep, your mental status is it's very important. No coffee, no tobacco, no carbonated drinks, say after 6 in the evening, and most important, right, no heavy meals just before going to sleep. It is not at all good. So it's always better to have your dinner, right, well in advance, at least around 2 or 2.5 hours before your bedtime. So these are some of the things about what we say about the sleep hygiene, that person has to follow, right, whenever a person goes to sleep. Sometimes what happens, you go to sleep, for some reasons, you don't get sleep at all. A reason can be anything. It may happen very occasionally. You're disturbed with something. Okay, something is running in your mind. Okay, then don't be on the bed. You just get up. Come out of your bedroom. Come out of the bed. You start reading something. You start reading something which is very light. Then slowly you'll get sleep. Okay, and then go to sleep. Just because you're not getting the sleep, you just don't lie in the bed. Because again you have that rumination of the thought will come. अरे मैं अपने बेड में हूँ, मुझे नींद नहीं आ रहा है, मैं अपने बेड में हूँ, मुझे नींद नहीं आ रही. So this too is what we associate. When you get up, come and so read something very light or very casual, you go to sleep. The other thing is very good is listen to a very wonderful soothing music. Definitely not the pop or a jazz, right? Or any small, whichever the music that you like, which will really relaxes you. It will also get into sleep. But why I told you milk and banana is these are the two food products, right? Which has a serotonin in that, and serotonin is the one neurotransmitter, so which will help, which will get into the music. And also, as we aging, we have people will face the problem either in the initiating of the sleep, much more so, they get up in the mid of the night, right, and after that they don't get sleep at all. So this is because the variations in this, there many because of the natural, age associated changes. So for them, you have one advice. One advice is that, as I told you about, generally for us to wash our hand and leg with the warm water. But if people with age, if they are finding, okay, you please dip your legs, right, in the warm water, at least for half an hour before going to sleep. Or it's better if you can take a warm water shower and then go to sleep. Why is because you expose your skin more to the warm water. Because of that temperature of the warm water, right, your blood vessels will expand, and because of the expansion of the blood vessels, the temperature that from inside the body, it dissipates outside. So that your inside core body temperature, it dips down, it comes down. So as I told you, your core body temperature, when it comes down, it will initiate the sleep and we'll go to sleep. So that's why it is also, so sometimes the elders in the house, they advise, okay, before you go to sleep, you can have a warm water head shower also. That may also help you to, get into sleep. But otherwise, very other few things about the sleep disorders, something, if you think, okay, any of your members of your house have a very sound sleep. I'm telling it in a very sarcastic way. Sound sleep means they make a lot of sound during sleep. Okay, so if somebody makes a lot of sound in the sleep, it doesn't mean, please, they are in a deep sleep state. No. Sound sleep, kya bolte wo guitar something, right? So the snoring is not, it's not a good sign. So, but if that snoring is disturbing, it is not good. Sometimes when you feel very tired, we may snore. That's a different issue. But if the snoring is very consistent, it is disturbing the person who is snoring and also the partner who is sleeping, right? And if husband or wife or children, anybody is complaining, आपका बहुत स्नोरिंग ज़्यादा है, आपको नींद नहीं आता, then you please go and consult your own physician, get your ENT checked up, see that, okay, if you have a chronic sinusitis, or if your ENT is fine, or if your throat is fine. All those things are associated with the snoring. Otherwise, the most common snoring is if the person is very short stature, he has a very short neck, or is very obese, right? All these things are responsible for snoring, and you have to get into snoring. And if somebody is really snoring and you have not taken it seriously, please go and get it done, because the snoring is one thing that increases the susceptibility to get the heart attack, diabetes, and all those things, that subsequently. So this is about the snoring, which is the most common thing. The other thing which is very common is especially in the adult and adolescent, there will be shift in their sleep. Suppose if we have some high school or a pre-university kids in the house, they have a natural tendency to sleep not to sleep till the mid of the night, right? To certain extent, it's a behavioral issue as far as of that particular age is concerned. But please encourage them to go to sleep, at the right time. So these are the few things which just I wanted to mention about the sleep and the common sleep issues, and how sleep is very much essential for our physical well-being, and also for our mental well-being, for our emotional well-being and all. But we have clearly shown with all our experiments, the long-term meditator, right, he preserves the slow wave sleep, which I mentioned, I think, yesterday, that even with the age of 80 years, 85 years, who is a regular meditator, his slow wave sleep is preserved. I didn't go into deep into the science of how slow wave sleep is produced. So the preservation of slow wave sleep means, so many critical areas of the brain is functionally it is preserved. So we have, as yesterday I was telling that, even the 80 years old meditator's brain, it works like that of a 30 years young, adult, as far as their sleep is concerned. Not only that, a regular sleep will be more. And also other thing, see, if you look at the incidence of all our heart attack ho gaya, stroke ho gaya kisi ka, most of them, it happens early in the morning. Why it should happen early in the morning? I told you, because the REM sleep is more early in the morning, and it is during the REM sleep, because it's a highly active state, the blood vessels, so the blood supply to the heart comes down, and the person, it suffers from heart attack, or blood supply to certain area of the brain is reduced, he may suffer from stroke and all those things, because there is an increase in the sympathetic activity. But in meditators, we have clearly shown that even though they have more REM sleep, their activity is more, but at the same time, right, their heart and their brain and their lungs, right, it will be very efficient enough, to counteract this hyperactivity. So that's the reason we can also say this yoga and meditation practice will have a very important effect, even as preventing also the various these disorders and all. So this is in brief about the sleep, which I really shared. Okay, thank you very much.